after you've embraced Bitcoin, if you think hard and deep enough about it, you begin to realize that there are scientific reasons why markets don't work the way you want them to work, and why political systems are dysfunctional. I think that the big breakthrough of Bitcoin, if you think about it really hard, is, I guess, the one thing that's really evolved for me is
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FITSCRIPT. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan: nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FITSCRIPT and see what's possible. You opted out of the broken financial system by adopting Bitcoin and taking self-custody of your money. But protecting your wealth is only part of the equation. Now it's time to protect your freedom. My family is stacking sats and stacking flags. A second passport is our hedge against government overreach and uncertainty. If you're a Bitcoiner looking for your exit strategy, our friends at Citizen X will help you secure second citizenship through investment or descent. Book your free call today by hitting the link in the show notes or simply scanning the QR code on the screen. I did also want to ask you on a personal level, especially since you've kind of come onto the scene, you know, your announcement in 2020 of what you were planning on doing, and up to today, what is one of the opinions that you maybe held about Bitcoin at that time as you were starting to pull the trigger that has most shifted or maybe completely changed over the past 5.5 years?
I think I figured it out pretty well very early on.
Okay, fair enough.
You can go back and look at what I said when I went on Pomp's podcast or Raul's podcast. It was September of 2020, and see what I thought then. I still think it now.
Interesting.
My views of Bitcoin haven't changed. I've found a lot of other ways to raise money to buy Bitcoin that I didn't know then. So
I did notice that.
I guess the one thing that's really evolved for me is my awareness, or at least my appreciation for Bitcoin as a tool to digitally transform capital markets.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Because initially I thought of it as a tool to save the company or save the individual. Mm-hmm. But now I actually see it as a tool to rebuild all the capital markets in the world, which means all the credit markets, all the equity markets. So I guess it's another way to say it is my view of Bitcoin hasn't really changed, but my view of the equity markets and my view of the credit markets has changed. So I guess if you want to riff on that a bit, it's like you learn Bitcoin, and then what's your conclusion? The big overarching conclusion is not how good Bitcoin is. It's just how defective the fiat currencies are that we used to rely on before Bitcoin. So because Bitcoin is a pure monetary asset, it causes you to realize how inadequate all the previous monetary assets were in the previous 10,000 years. And because it's a pure monetary asset, you realize how inadequate the existing equities are. And then you realize how inadequate the existing credit is. So, you know, if you accepted the world and said, well, the bond market is healthy, the equity markets are healthy, the money markets are healthy, you know, that was before Bitcoin. And then after Bitcoin, a lot of people realize, okay, well, if Bitcoin is good money, then I guess the other monies are defective. But not many go beyond that to point out that the implication is all of the existing equity markets are impaired and all of the existing credit markets are impaired. No, so a lot of people rail about the evils of fiat currency, but the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of evils with all the other credit and equity instruments or all the other stores of value. Like people that thought they were going to save their hard-earned wealth by buying an apartment and Airbnb-ing it, or I invested in real estate, or I decided to buy a house instead, and then they realized that the house was a weight around their neck, or I bought a portfolio of corporate credit. And if you look, if you look at the writings of libertarians and you look at the writings of the Austrian economists, right? Whether it's Rothbard and the Libertarian Manifesto, right, or von Mises or Hayek, they're very long on history. They tell you the history of money, the history of libertarian causes, the history, and then they have a lot of criticism. This is why it's wrong. But they're very short. They're very lacking on the science and on the engineering. So, for example, none of the Austrian economists actually lay out perfect money. Right? They kind of end with all existing fiat currencies are bad and gold is less bad, and gold is better. And then they stop. And the libertarians, they tell you why government intervention in all policy is generally iatrogenic, why government intervention is dysfunctional. And then they wish that governments didn't intervene. And then they hope that people will just adopt a libertarian, view. But I think that the big breakthrough of Bitcoin, if you think about it really hard, is Bitcoin is an example of a perfect monetary asset. So once you saw perfect, then you can ask the question, what makes it perfect? And then you can see what's the defect. And so I guess what's really changed for me over the 5 years is having spent enough time thinking about engineering of capital and engineering of economics, and looking at the door that the Bitcoin opens, I just realized that the Austrians and the libertarians, they struggle because they didn't have the science, they didn't have the engineering, and so they were hopeless, and their plight was hopeless. And Bitcoin, as we said, is hope. The solution to all these problems is never in the history of the ideology. It's in the science and the engineering. So why is it that power tends to what is the word? Congeal. Why do big companies get bigger, and why do the powerful get more powerful, and why do countries and nation states accumulate power? Right? Why? And then what are you going to do about it? Right? And I think, after you've embraced Bitcoin, if you think hard and deep enough about it, you begin to realize that there are scientific reasons why markets don't work the way you want them to work, and why political systems are dysfunctional. And then once you embrace the scientific reasons why, then you start to engineer a solution, right? And in my case, I realized that you could use Bitcoin to engineer better credit, and engineer better equity, and engineer better capital markets, right? And without Bitcoin, you can't. And the other people, they don't know they have a problem because they've never seen a perfect solution, right? So they're mired in an imperfect world.
I like that. I want to bring it down to maybe the the individual level and get some Michael Saylor advice for your average Bitcoiner here. Let's say you've got, somebody, they're youngish, starting a family, getting their career underway. Hey, you. Yes, you watching the Bitcoin price movements and the latest exciting news. It's awesome to stay informed, but the real power of Bitcoin comes from taking control. Don't just watch, take action. Head over to btcsessions.ca/learn for free step-by-step tutorials that guide you through every major skill you need to know, plus full video playlists for deeper dives on any topic you like. And if you're ready for the ultimate fast track, scroll to the bottom and check out bitcoinmentor.io for premium one-on-one experience with my team of Bitcoin experts to ensure you get it right the first time. Don't wait. Secure your Bitcoin future today. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen.